So I wrote this first poem probably about 4 or 5 years ago. There was a week when a mosque and a synagogue were both attacked in literally the same week. Um, and just seeing the signs of anti-Semitism starting to to get bigger again. And this was even like well before the war. And prompt, the golem. Write a poem that is bigger than you and put the word in its mind. You can erase this later. Fill the poem with so much grief that it runs out of internal memory and must write its own poems. These it will deliver to a mosque in New Zealand, a synagogue in San Diego. Now it is free to do what it came here to do. In bullet-ridden balconies, the little poems play with the holiest ghosts. What they took from us. This is a true story from my family. Growing up, my great aunt Leah didn't have a voice. I mean this literally. When she spoke, it was like wind straining through a spider's nest. When they were young women in the ghetto, the story went, after the village of Glut had been looted and razed and its Jews kidnapped, they went out one night to meet the men. I was a child and spared unchildish details, but I remember imagining them down in the sewers, shoes in their hands, lifting their tattered dresses from the muck, never above the knee. What a thrill it must have been, even this small rebellion. To be caged in a slum, mapped by machine guns, and yet defy their captors for flowers at the risk of their own flowering. I imagined Leah singing some popular Yiddish song, dancing with her 7 sisters, a constellation of open hearts, but they were not resistance fighters or spies. They were caught and lined up. The Nazis executed them one by one, sparing only my Bobby and Leah, an example. Leah wept for 7 days and nights until her vocal cords snapped from the violence of her cries, leaving her mute. Years later, in the United States, they would be surgically reattached, but the voice of her girlhood never returned. You all wanted to do it, but I did it. I killed baby Hitler. I squeezed 73 million lives out of his little lung. Every breath he didn't take fed legions of Roma and Jews. The Institute for Sexual Research was never ransacked, its books never burned. Instead of the night of glass, we had the decade of flowers. Berlin became the first LGBTQ-friendly city. Auschwitz became a parking lot. Schindler wrote a grocery list, Elie Wiesel wrote love poems, and Eva Braun sought gentler company. The Olympics thrived, but the art world was never the same. My Bobby and her sisters went to Warsaw on vacation, and they all walked out. The name Adolf retained its original meaning, noble wolf. When we split the atom, we found our hearts inside. No one had to fear the showerhead or the train. My father was born in bed instead of in a field. Why would we ever leave? In my pocket, 6 million plane tickets for cousins I've yet to meet. So I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. Hi, friend. Very happy to see a lot of familiar names and invisible faces. This next poem is from a series of poems that I wrote during one poetry month. I do the 30-30 every year, 30 poems in 30 days in the month of April. And for this month, I decided to do a series of what if poems where every poem was premised on some decision in my life goes in some different direction or something that happened differently, whether it be to me personally or in the world. What if number 10? Jessica tells me we're only pretend dating. She can never be with me because I'm not Christian. So I convert. Jesus is my long lost cousin. It's an easy transition. I don't even have to abandon Judaism, just learn the expansion set. My family isn't happy, but what's new? My people have been complaining since Egypt, and I am ready to turn the other cheek. I take Jessica on missionary dates, going door to door to spread the word. In church, I sing louder than the choir. Although Jessica isn't Catholic, I insist on going to confession, and I'm too busy saying my Hail Marys to help with the dishes. This time, when we watch The Passion, we do it in separate chairs. Isn't Mel Gibson a visionary, I say? She can hardly recognize me. We are not Mormon, but I prefer the aesthetic anyway and wear a white shirt and name tag wherever I go. Jessica accuses me of cosplaying, but the truth is, I have a relationship with Jesus no non-Jew could ever understand. The closer I become to God, the less we touch. It's sinful, I say. We have to get married. This is not how she wanted to be proposed to. One night I get a phone call. Jessica met someone on MySpace and they're going to be together. We're Jewish now, she says, and you're Christian, so I can never be with you. Gamzula Tova, I say. The Lord works in mysterious ways. This only exacerbates the situation, but I can no longer hear over the voice of the three-part God singing to me in chorus. How lonely it will be, I think, in the kingdom of heaven when I'm the only one there. So this next poem is based on a poet named Hal Sirowitz, who wrote a chapbook of incredible and incredibly Jewish poems about his mother criticizing him. Basically, they all use this mother said construction. So this is based in his style. And just to give an idea of what Hal Sirowitz is like, it's like I'm gonna badly mangle a poem of his, but it'd be like, don't stick your hand in the pickle jar, mother said, or it'll get stuck in there. And you'll have to smash the glass, and then your father will cut his feet on it. Like it's so great. And I found the chapbook in the Strand like upstairs in the rare books room, and I just like could not believe what I had found. So this is called "Don't Marry a Shiksa" after Hal Sirowitz. If you have to stop being religious, mother said, just don't fall in love with a shiksa, because then you might marry her. And I want all my children and grandchildren to be buried in the same Jewish cemetery as me. Otherwise, when Mashiach comes, and all the Jewish dead roll beneath the ground to the Holy Land to be reanimated, who will keep me company? I want to hear all about their successful careers as cybernetic enhancement directors, mech suit programmers, and lawyers. Not like their godless bum father, the poet. I just want to clarify that my mother never said that. She's never called me a godless bum for being a poet. Um, and she is in the room. Hi, Mom. So I'm going to read a couple of Pesach poems. One of the exciting things that always happens to me during Poetry Month, because it happens to fall out in April, is that I always write poems about like the Seders and stuff like that. If Poetry Month were in December, I'd have a shit ton of poems about Hanukkah, but instead they're like all about Passover. So this is called "For You Came Out of the Land of Egypt in Haste." On the first night we ate the bread of affliction. We drank the wine of affliction and named the plagues of affliction. We dipped the potatoes of affliction in the salt water of affliction and made bitter herbs and apple mortar of affliction sandwiches. We squeezed the squeaky frog toys of affliction and sang the funny songs of affliction, including the one about the questions, the one about the goat, and who knows one. Meanwhile, the children whipped each other with the scallions of affliction and got snarky with their afflicted parents. We shot the shit of affliction, told the jokes of affliction, and shared the pleasant anecdotes of affliction. We read the story of affliction from the book of affliction until 1 a.m., the hour of affliction. We incanted the abbreviations of affliction and all their subtle meanings. The spinach kugel of affliction was pretty good, but the chocolate lava cake of affliction was to die for. We drank more wine of affliction, and somebody spilled the sparkling peach grape juice of affliction all over the paper tablecloth. I loosened my tie of affliction and left my dress shoes of affliction at the door. Afterwards, I went home. I drank the waters of rehydration. I checked the messages of distraction and read the poetry of joy. I turned on the TV of relaxation, put on the Jack Skellington pajama pants of comfort, and smoked the weed of freedom. Finally, I slept, the long-awaited sleep of the jet-lagged, in the bed of the peaceful dark. Why is this night different from all other nights? On this night, we wear paper airplanes on our shirts and silver flower ties. We lean a little to the left while the kids sing animal songs, make frogs rain. On this night, we ask each other about God's hands, how they loop about our waists for protection, ours and his, lost children that we are, the broken middle piece. On this night, we call out the window, let all who hunger come and eat. We open the door to spirits and saints, make sandwiches of the mortar that built the pyramids. On this night, we say, it is better to sin and not know it, so don't tell them. The blood from our fingers becomes the fruit of the vine. We pour another cup. On this night, we run, as we have in every generation, from Ferdinand, from Haman, from Amalek. Still, we teach the children, love anyway. So I just have two more poems to read for you today. Um, both of these are poems I wrote since the war. This first one I wrote basically at the 1 year anniversary of October 7th, maybe like a few days after that. And I performed it at a local reading that we do at midnight in an alleyway on the evening of the full moon once a month, and have done for about 13 years. I think coming up on 14 years this October. If you're ever in Boulder, Colorado on the evening of the full moon, come to Morrison Alley at midnight and you will find a bunch of poets. Just follow the sound of the howling. And The other thing I kind of want to say about this is a lot of the time when I write poems about Jewish content, I'm thinking about a non-Jewish audience and how to have them kind of understand my experience and my identity and what these things mean to me. Um, and in Israel, it's like a different fight. It's like which way is the country going to go? What's it going to be like? Are the hostages going to come home? Israelis aren't talking about should Israel exist. It's a non-question, you know. Whereas here, I don't even get to have that like level of really subtle debate. I have to defend my right to exist at all, to be alive, to have a place that's safe for me to go. And to have a connection to that place. The like I have to defend what Jewish identity means. I have non-Jews telling me what a Jew is, you know. So this poem is kind of in that vein. And I originally called it "Can You Feel This?" But I think that's going to be a placeholder title because the next poem has almost the exact same title. So um, I don't know quite what I'm going to call this, but it starts with a quote from the Haggadah. In every generation, each person must see themselves as if they had come forth from Egypt. I was a slave in Rome, and I escaped. I was a slave in Auschwitz and was liberated. I rescued my holy temple from the Greeks and watched it burn. I was a second-class dhimmi in Babylon, Persia, Morocco. I paid the jizya and was ethnically cleansed anyway. I pretended to be Christian, Muslim, or atheist, whichever the knife demanded. I survived the Crusades, the Inquisition, the Holocaust. And on October 7th, I, your friend, Eric Fischman, died 1,000 deaths. This is not a metaphor. Do you understand us yet? After 2,000 years, I walked again on the Temple Mount. I admired the mosque built on top of my holiest ruin. I prayed at the Western Wall and darkened its stones with my tears. I ate with Bedouins. I worked with Druze. I spoke Hebrew, Arabic, Amharic, and Farsi. I smoked Lebanese hash on the northern border, and the orange sunset lit both lands aflame. I have returned to David's city. I have returned to the caves where my forefathers are buried. I have returned to the soil that my body is made of. And I'm not going anywhere. And the last poem is called I Hope You Get to Feel Something Like This. And I wrote it during a trip for Pesach with my mother this past year, just being immersed in Jewish culture, just in song and prayer and ritual, and being surrounded by there were like 1,000 of us at this place, was just so powerful. Mediterranean, I have missed you. Jewish joy, I had forgotten your name. Moon, it's me, your midnight friend. Flame alphabet, when did you last kiss my tongue? Jerusalem, you are my whole body. Sand, you are my skin. Khamsin, wasn't I born in your hot lung? Songs of my blood, let me drown in you. Thanks, everybody.